Many health experts say we should all be drastically cutting down on our carbs, specifically those satisfying but sugar-rich breads. And anyone worried about diabetes has probably asked, can I still eat bread? How much or how little bread you eat is up to you. But everyone should be aware that any bread will add sugar to your bloodstream. However, there's a big difference in how your body reacts to this bread versus that bread. Don't leave without clicking the link below to grab your free copy of Superfoods for Diabetics and episode 1 of that diabetes documentary. And do not change the channel. It's time to reveal the worst and best breads for diabetes. Bread. It's soft, it's delicious, it's loaded with sugar, usually. Bread tends to be made with wheat flour, and that flour tends to be very starchy. Starch is converted to sugar as you digest your bread. That means there's always some amount of natural sugar found within the flour of your bread, usually about 1.5 to 2 grams of sugar per 100 grams of flour. But most any bread also contains added sugars. Bread makers use added sugars to feed the yeast. This helps quicken the rising process. Added sugar is also used in bread to absorb some water, which makes the bread softer. Traditional white breads, from ciabatta to brioche to that crunchy focaccia, can contain significant quantities of sugar, while also supplying very little fiber content. That can be a dangerous combination if you are worried about better managing your glucose levels. For example, 2 slices of white bread can load your system with 200 calories, almost 40 grams of carbs, but only 1 gram of fiber. That means those 2 slices will spike your blood sugar in a matter of minutes. But it's not just white bread that can overload your system with sugar. Some breads are advertised as healthy choice options, but did you know that most of these products will actually still contain a high amount of added sugar? You may think that a bread labeled as multi-grain automatically makes it healthy. But multi-grain only means that it contains at least 1% of multiple grains. It does not mean that the bread is made from whole grains. So, breads labeled as multi-grain can still be heavily processed and low in fiber content. Gluten-free breads may also pique your interest, but gluten-free breads still contain a large carb load. In fact, when gluten is removed from these types of bread, this may actually make the bread higher in both carbohydrates and calories. Enriched bread is also heavily processed. This process removes many minerals and vitamins, but leaves the sugar content. So, enriched breads may actually create the same insulin response you'd get with most any typical white bread. Another bread product to be wary of is your traditional bagel. These donut-shaped breakfast staples are lower in fat than some other baked goods, but because they are so dense, just 1/4 of a bagel will supply you with the same carb load as a full slice of bread. In general, just because a bread looks healthy does not make it so. Many brown breads are loaded with sugar. They're simply made with brown food coloring to trick you into assuming that bread is healthy. The first thing you should do when shopping for packaged bread is to study the nutrition label. Be mindful of any bread product's ingredients and check that it doesn't contain a high amount of added sugar ingredients. Be sure to look at the total carbohydrate and fiber contents. You want to keep your carbs low and your fiber content as plentiful as possible. Try going for a carb-to-fiber ratio of 10:1 or lower. That means for every 10 grams of carbohydrate, that bread should contain at least 1 gram of fiber. And many nutritionists now recommend seeking out bread with a 5:1 carb-to-fiber ratio. In general, seek out breads which contain at least 3 grams of fiber per slice. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our other diabetes and nutrition videos. Also, click that magical link in the description below so you can claim both of your 2 free gifts, Superfoods for Diabetics and episode 1 of that diabetes documentary. So, what types of bread will give you the best carb-to-fiber ratios? Start with sprouted grain breads. Sprouted grain breads, like Ezekiel bread, forgo the flour and are instead created using whole grains which have begun sprouting. That means this variety of bread will have a lower glycemic load than traditional flour breads. Sprouted grain breads are also loaded with quality nutrients like iron, zinc, folate, and magnesium. Just be aware that the generally unprocessed nature of these breads means that they will go bad quite quickly. So, best to leave these loaves in your fridge or freezer. Seeded and nut flour breads, like flaxseed, chia seed, and almond flour breads, will supply you with a good amount of dietary fiber, protein, and fat. Just make sure to look at the nutrition label before choosing one of these breads, because they may contain a higher amount of calories. 100% whole grain breads are also high in dietary fiber. This fiber can help you feel fuller quicker. A truly 100% whole grain product will supply you with the entire grain. That means it contains the bran, or the outer layer of the grain, the endosperm, which is the starchy middle layer of the grain, and the germ, or the nutrient-rich inside of the grain. This ensures that 100% whole grain breads are rich in nutrients and vitamins. In fact, recent studies have shown that 100% whole grain bread products can actually decrease your diabetes risk. Whole wheat bread is simply one type of whole grain bread product, but whole wheat breads can still be more processed and less healthy than some whole grain breads. Check their nutrition labels and watch out for ingredients like refined or enriched flour. Sourdough bread is long fermented, which produces acetic acid. Acetic acid, the main ingredient in vinegar, has been shown to lower blood sugar levels. In fact, a recent study showed that test subjects had the slowest and lowest insulin response when eating sourdough bread compared to white and whole wheat breads. Pumpernickel bread is made with a sourdough starter, so just like sourdough bread, it will contain that beneficial acetic acid. Pumpernickel is low glycemic and can contain up to 8 times as much resistant starch as breads made with wheat or barley. Resistant starch, much like fiber, does not digest quickly. This means that pumpernickel bread won't spike your insulin levels. Just look at the nutrition label to check that it doesn't contain any added sugars, like molasses. But no matter the bread you choose, you're most likely eating your bread with other food. That means you can pair certain types of food with your bread to lower the overall glycemic load. If you're making a sandwich, use quality protein, fiber, and fats for your filling. Go for hummus, grilled chicken, leafy greens, scrambled eggs, even a small amount of mozzarella cheese. These foods can actually slow your body's insulin response to the carbs from your bread. So, there you have it. Any bread will contain sugar, But if you just need that bread fix, you can definitely do your body a favor by choosing breads like 100% whole grain, sprouted grain, pumpernickel, or sourdough over white breads, enriched breads, or bagels. And no matter what, make sure to pair your bread choice with healthy proteins, fats, and fiber to slow your body's insulin response. Your health and your bread is in your hands. For more information about which breads to choose and which breads to avoid, click the link in the description below and grab both of these 2 free gifts. Also, be sure to like this vid and subscribe to the Diabetes Smarts channel. We're releasing more fun and informative diabetes-related content each week. Thanks for watching, and have a happy and healthy day.